We're joined today by State Representative Seth Grove, Republican Chair of the House Appropriations Committee. Governor Josh Shapiro just signed the state budget last night. What are your biggest takeaways from the spending plan?
Thanks. Number one, it was, 12 days late. Everything's finalized now. So, a little better than last year when it was finalized in December. I actually have a lot more disappointments than I do really excited about this year's budget. Just top level, it's a $47.6 billion. Governor Josh Shapiro proposed a budget just $700 million more. So really, Josh Shapiro got his basic budget that he wanted. It spends more money than what we have available in revenues, relies on one-time surplus to fund recurring costs. So really, we're advancing a structural deficit that we won't have money to pay for after next year's budget. The surplus will be gone next year. So you're down to $7 billion in the rainy day fund or massive tax increases. And the rainy day fund was established for economic downturns, not to bail out bad budgeting practices. All in all, big winners in the budget, really education. A lot of money, about $1 billion, was put into several different line items. Basic education funding got $250 million. There was a new adequacy funding formula of well over $500 million going out to school districts. And really, that became problematic because there are some school districts that got zero. A lot of them in Montgomery County, Pittsburgh School District got $0 out of that pot of money. And there's zero accountability. So school districts can just put it in their bank account if they want. They can spend it on whatever they want or not spend it. So there's nothing in there that really says you need to improve academic scores and benefit kids moving forward. And there's no property tax protections whatsoever. So school districts can continue to raise property taxes and tax people more as they get more and more dollars from the state. So I think that formula was a big failure to really drive student achievement and protect taxpayers over the long haul. I think most people agree that Josh Shapiro got a big win with his budget with the PA Sites program, which was a $900 billion cost to taxpayers to fund $500 million, of which the governor controls the largest pot of that money to do rehab industrial sites and stuff and padding, which I think people supported. But my general opinion was, we have cash available, one-time funds. That was a good use of the surplus to fund that without adding $400 million of interest costs moving forward. So Senate got a big win with permitting reform. That was my Senator Kristen Phillips Hill. That's a big deal to reform the permitting process, and DEP has been a huge inhibitor in job growth in the Commonwealth for a long time. So kudos to her, kudos to the Senate Republicans for getting that win. I don't have a lot of good news for citizens, particularly in a few years when the bills due, and they're going to have to pick up the tab for it.
In an article published by Broad and Liberty on July 9th, you referred to Josh Shapiro as, quote, an absentee governor, end quote. How involved was Governor Shapiro throughout budget negotiations? And maybe can you compare that to prior governors such as Corbett and Wolf?
Yeah. So all of June, he was traveling all across the Commonwealth, not in Harrisburg. Finally got engaged after July. And, I do know he was engaged this last week. Maybe if he was engaged after the budget address and sooner, we could have had a sooner budget. I mean, the budget we passed could have been done in March. Not a lot of big wins, just $700 million down from where he's at. Like, I could have negotiated that way back in March. So had he been actually engaged maybe this whole time, maybe it could have done a lot sooner rather than 11 days into the new fiscal year. So a lot of that timing stuff is on the governor by not being active and present. Governor Wolf was pretty present and involved. Governor Corbett was. Obviously, Governor Rendell, that guy was negotiating December before he left office. So Ed was a true negotiator and stuff. So all the other governors really have been engaged and involved a lot, particularly their administration. So it isn't interesting to see that that absenteeism really did impact timing of getting an on-time budget done. Had the governor been more engaged sooner, we probably wouldn't be here today talking about we just passed the budget. It probably would have been in June.
You've been an advocate in favor of zero-based budgeting. You've conducted numerous budget hearings over February and March. If that would have been implemented, are there particular agencies or programs that you had your eye on that you thought would have been reduced?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about zero-based budgeting, it's talking about trying to right-size it. So it's really not about necessarily reductions. It's about getting it right and putting your money into areas that work. Through testimony, the DCD secretary, I mean, between last year and this year, testified under oath. They went through this in-depth analysis of all the programs. They discovered ones that work and ones that don't work. Now, we couldn't get him to name one single one that did work, and we pushed him, just give me one, secretary, But that's a good area to start, like what works and what doesn't work. We do have programs that do very similar things, like the PA Sites program. We probably have 3 or 4 other programs that do a very similar thing to that. Combining them into something in one program does work. And then it's about just simple evaluation. Like we've been doing incremental budgeting since before the first Star Wars movie, so 1978, right? And you'd have legislature after legislature just throw money on top of whatever was given last year without any thought of do these programs work? Are we getting what we want out of them? Are they succeeding? Aren't they succeeding because they don't get enough? So those are the conversations we have, and we know it works. And we know Governor Josh Shapiro did it because he successfully did as president commissioner at Montgomery County. So when he came into Montgomery County, he had a larger budget deficit percentage-wise than Governor Tom Wolf at the time. He closed it without tax increases, funded the critical needs of the county, and was successful. Now, they got rid of some stuff, yeah, but it's everything that probably didn't work and needed to be gone. So it's a harder way to budget. I consider incremental budgeting lazy budgeting, right? You have your number, let's just throw money on top of it. Let's not have any discussion to see, does it work? Is it effective? Is it actually helping our citizens? Is it reaching those goals? And 2, we've had this performance-based budgeting board that the IFO has run with members of the General Assembly administration. And, they kick out reports for the past, almost decade of all these state agencies and performance metrics. We never use them. So it's a great time to kind of rebuild that kind of stuff into the metrics as we move forward. And, the governor brought in his budget guy from Montgomery County, Yuri Munson, the budget secretary. He did performance-based budgeting. Part of that success is because of him. It takes work, but I think we can get there. So I think it's something we should start working on, and it should be put in place in the next year's budget, particularly since we know we're going to be out of the surplus. Like it is gone effective next year, because the residual amount we have of $3.1 billion. So when Governor Shapiro took office, $8 billion. He had $8 billion in a surplus. That is down to $3.1 billion. And you're going to need that just to break even with this year's budget next year. So if you want increases, and our natural growth is about $2.5 billion a year, cost to carry, $1 billion in education, $1 billion in DHS, and then $500 million spread all across the rest of the government. You're going to need a $2.5 billion tax increase to cover that minimum. And then you're going to need it going forward year after year and stuff like that. So we got a lot of financial problems, and we gotta get smart in doing it. And I think a great way is the governor's idea. Do zero-based budgeting.
Let's zero in on education for a moment. One of the reported sticking points was whether or not the distribution should be based on poverty data from the Department of Education or from U.S. Census data. Census data ultimately won out. What difference does that make?
I guess in the scheme of things, it shifts money around depending. I think the big fear was the census. So the census data is self-reported from the school districts in areas up to the census. So it's self-reported by citizens, right? The PD is self-reported by the school districts. So either way, you have a self-reporting. The issue with self-reporting from the school districts is they directly have the input. So if they know that's a data point, you can scan the system by fudging your data numbers. And there was no audit of this. They didn't require like a look back audit and then a clawback of dollars if you were in fact scamming the system. So I think the thought was, one, the census data, since it's a survey of citizens, school districts aren't connected with that, so you cannot manipulate that formula moving forward. I think the greatest miss in that formula is actually accountability. So all that money that's going out, over $500 million going out to some school districts, not all school districts, because some are getting zero out of that pot. Out of $500 million, there's school districts that will get $0. That money is just going to be sent out without any expectation or any guidance or any direction to school districts on how to use that to bring success for students. And that's the goal of education, right? I want to take that student in kindergarten and make sure when they graduate, they're able to meet all those standards, add, subtract, read at grade level every single year, be a productive member of society, work and stay here in Pennsylvania, make lots of money, and then bring in that tax revenue for the Commonwealth, right? That's the end goal. That's what we all want. Everybody's successful, no matter where they're from, what school district, what area of the Commonwealth, rural, suburban, urban, doesn't matter. We want them to be successful in life. And unfortunately, this is just a blank check. We're just, the House Democrats said on the floor, our goal is to just give them money without any expectations. They did say, Jordan Harris, my majority chairman, when we debated their funding for them, they're like, at some point, we'll figure out how to use that money, but we just need to give them money. And it doesn't work. It's proven year after year. If you just give people money, you will not get results out of it. So I think it will end up being a failure unless we go back and provide the direct requirements. And I think Representative Jason Ortizai has a great idea of requiring some updated ways to read. It's been proven to be successful. He was trying to get that in because if you're giving $580 million, that's a great requirement to put in there. And we're basically already funding it through that money. So school districts wouldn't have to put out more money.
Despite the governor verbally supporting school vouchers in his budget address, that was not part of the budget plan again this year. Do you anticipate or do you foresee any scenario where the governor becomes more actively involved in vouchers to include that in the negotiations in the future?
I really don't. I think it was really a campaign promise to get campaign dollars in his first election from Pennsylvania's lone billionaire, Mr. Yass. I think that's all it was. I think it was just a political ploy. He talked about it a little bit last year, really didn't go hard on it. And this year, it just completely fell to the wayside. I'm not sure really anybody was in that room advocating for school choice. I think we need to do it. I don't think we need to do some little line item in the budget anymore. I think we need universal school choice. Every kid, every school should have the eligibility to go wherever they want. If they want to stay in their public school because if they feel it's a great opportunity for them, great. I'm happy for them. As long as they are successful in life, we need to give them the options and the tools to be successful in life.
What unfinished business will your caucus prioritize when you return to session in September?
Yeah, September 23rd, we saw. Now, we don't have a full House calendar, so I don't know how many days we are going to be in session in the fall. September 23rd is a very, very late start date for us. So it was a little taken aback by that, which means I don't think we're going to be in many days at all. So you're looking at some little things here and there. Prioritize wise, I think setting stuff up for next year's coming back into session next year is important. Talking about kind of where we want to go, what our main focuses are, where we want to lead the Commonwealth, I think is critically important. I think, school choice is prominent, program integrity, making sure every dollar the taxpayers spend is being used for its intended use. We know from Governor Josh Shapiro, we have about $3 billion of fraud every single year in our welfare programs. We need to start getting that out of the system. Redoing our tax structure to make sure it works for people who are working, because we need workers in here. And that loss of population has really hurt. We got some great permitting reforms from the Senate this budget year, Senator Kristen Phillips Hill. So let's see how that works, and then see what else we can do to get government kind of out of the way, so we can expand. We're working on a list of regulatory repealers, and before we left the majority, 2 years ago, we had the Independent Regulatory Review Commission actually look at numerous regulations. So hopefully we should be getting a report on that to see what regs they recommend getting rid of and adjusting. So we need to right-size government, make it start working for the people, and get some really good policies in place to really drive accountability and transparency in state government.
Representative Seth Grove, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you.